In World War II, do not start with tanks, start with a doorway. War was often decided so close you could smell smoke on a man's coat. A trench corner, a stairwell in the dark. In that distance, one weapon ruled fear. The submachine gun, fast, compact, and made for the moment when there is no time to aim. This is not a list of steel and parts. This is a tour of pressure. Some guns were built with pride. Others were welded in secrecy and desperation. The difference tells you who was winning and who was running out of breath. Listen closely, because as the war tightens its grip, the guns become simpler, rougher, and more urgent. United States, the Thompson M1A1 became America's hard-working answer. Earlier versions were complex. The M1A1 was stripped down for war. Fewer controls, simpler production, same heavy punch. In Europe and the Pacific, it helped define the A. The rising M50 arrived early, especially with the Marines. It could be accurate, but real battlefields are filthy. Sand and mud punished its complicated mechanism. When a gun hesitates, men die, so the rising quickly lost fave. The United Defense M42 was built mainly for export, but the war sent it where it was needed most. Compact, rugged, chambered in 9mm, it ended up in resistance hands across Europe. For fighters living in hiding, a relia. The M2 Hyde was a prototype with promise, but wartime rules are brutal. If it is hard to mass produce, it loses. The Hyde was judged too complex, and America moved on. United Kingdom. Britain needed weapons now, not later, and that need created the Sten Mark II. Cheap, simple, easy to hide, and fast to manufacture, it armed soldiers and partisans alike. It could be dangerous in careless hands, but it gave Britain something priceless: numbers. The Sten Mark V tried to bring order to the emergency. Better handling and a more solid build made it feel less like a rushed tool and more like a proper service weapon. The Lanchester Mark I was heavy and well-made, used mainly by the Royal Navy and Royal Air Force for guard duties. Reliable, but too expensive for general issue. It proves how cost can decide who gets protection. Late in the war, Britain tested the Sterling Patchett prototype, refined and forward-looking, a hint of the post-war world arriving early. And for secret work, the BSA Wellgun was built for special operations. It could be broken down and concealed, carried through occupied streets, then assembled for a sudden strike. Australia. The Pacific punished weak designs. Heat, rain, and jungle grit turned small flaws into failure. That is why the Owen gun earned a fierce reputation. With its top-loading magazine and rugged reliability, it kept firing when other weapons clogged and quit. The Austin borrowed ideas from the Sten and the German MP40. It worked well enough, but it lived in the shadow of the Owen, because jungle war rewards only what survives. Germany. The MP40 became the face of German close-range firepower. Compact, with a folding stock, it was built for movement and sudden violence. Captured examples were often kept and used, because practical weapons do not care whose hands hold them. The MP38 came first, more machined, more expensive, slower to produce. It marks the moment when Germany began shifting from precision toward faster wartime methods. The MP34, made in Austria, was famously robust and beautifully built, but that quality came with a price. In a long war, expensive weapons become rare. The MP28, rooted in earlier Bergmann ideas, served widely with police and SS units early on. It was steady and reliable, a reminder of a time before total shortages. The Irma EMP mattered as an early influence, feeding ideas into later German development and spreading through exports and special use. Then the war reached the bottom of the barrel. The MP3008 was a late-war emergency gun, inspired by the Sten concept and produced in fragmented workshops. It was not elegant. It was a sign of a system collapsing and still trying to arm hands. Soviet Union. The PPSh 41 was the sound of Soviet fury. High-volume fire, simple handling, devastating at street distance, it thrived in rubble and close combat where speed mattered more than finesse. The PPS-43 pushed simplification even further. Lighter, easier to manufacture, rugged enough for harsh conditions, it proved that smart design can be brutal in its efficiency. The PPS-42 was the prototype that proved the path. Under siege and shortage, engineers learned what could be cut away without cutting the fighting spirit. The PPD-40 was well made, but too complex for Soviet mass demands. Its production could not match the scale demanded by the Eastern Front. It belongs to an earlier stage, before the full shift to weapons built for millions. And the PPD-34, one of the earliest Soviet machine pistols, carried foreign influence in early lessons, the first steps toward industrial-scale firepower. Italy. The Beretta Model 38 is often called one of the best submachine guns of the war. Smooth, balanced, and built with quality, it gave Italian troops a weapon that felt dependable when the future did not. The Fnab 43 was more ambitious, with a folding stock and a complex system meant to control its firing behavior. But complexity costs time and money, so it remained limited. The TZ-45 leaned into stamped simplicity and practical safety features. It appeared late, when Italy was strained and every decision felt like a hurry. Older echoes remained in service. The OVP 1918, born from the previous war, still showed up in minor roles. The Beretta Model 1918, adapted from earlier rifle thinking, often served behind the front more than at the spearhead. Finland. The Suomi KP-31 became a legend in cold forests and bitter fighting. Accurate, robust, and well-made, with high-capacity magazines, it earned respect from all sides because it simply worked when the temperature and the stakes dropped. Japan. The Type 100 was Japan's main wartime submachine gun. Often fitted with features like a permanent bipod, it reflects a doctrine that valued control and support, not only close-range bursts. The Type 2 was an experimental attempt at simplification, but it arrived too late and in too few numbers to change the battlefield. France. The MAS-38 was compact and easy to control, using a low-powered cartridge. Its unusual angled receiver made it instantly recognizable, and it stands as a reminder of a nation forced into a war it did not choose. Hungary. The Danuvia 39M was a powerful early standard using the 9mm Mauser cartridge, with a distinctive folding foregrip and a heavy presence. The Danuvia 43M refined the idea into a shorter, more manageable weapon for troops who needed speed and handling. Romania. The Orita M1941 was a respected local design with clean lines and solid build quality. Chambered for the standard German 9mm round, built to stand beside larger allies without shame. Poland. Here the story turns personal. The Mors WZ-39 was an advanced pre-war design, high quality but costly. Produced in small numbers before invasion crushed production, those few guns became treasured symbols of what might have been. Then the resistance began building weapons in secret. The Bliskowica, meaning lightning, was designed for clandestine manufacture and real fighting, and it mattered when Warsaw rose and every street became a trap. The Chwat I was another underground answer, intended for covert work and chambered for a smaller pistol cartridge, made for sudden action and fast escape. And the KIS, one of the most successful clandestine designs, used clever features like a folding stock, but it fought the same enemy as every resistance shop. Limited tools, limited materials, limited time. Czechoslovakia. The ZK-383 closed this chapter with a sturdy, unusual design, featuring a quick change barrel and a bipod, hinting at a role between personal weapon and light support. And when you look across the war, the pattern in summary, the submachine gun designs of World War II marked a significant shift from expensive, handcrafted weapons to minimalist, mass-produced designs.